So, I heard you're looking for a go-to source for entertainment.
Wait for it.
Gaming?
Wait for it.
Anime?
Plus Ultra!
Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is... wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wait For It podcast. I am your co-host, Phil Smith, aka Phil the Filipino. And joining us as always is your other co-host, Mr. Eric Almighty. And Eric, and again, which we're saying this every single month, and it's getting repetitive, but we are here with another exciting episode of Creator Spotlight. And, we have yourself to thank for today's guest, as we have gotten more and more familiar with their content over the last few months, and it's always so much fun. And us being in this cinematic journey, right now, where we're exposing ourselves to films that we probably wouldn't have, like, even 3 years ago, which is the reason I'm very excited to talk to our guest here today and have a great conversation about movies and film, but also just pop culture in general.
Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned, it's perfect. It's the inspiration for this series, finding like-minded people, not only in podcasting, but in pop culture as well. And those two things combine for our next guest, which we are really excited to talk to here today. You may know him on TikTok. That's how I found him and have been a fan ever since. Kevin from the Real For Real podcast, welcome on. How are you doing tonight? And are you ready? Hopefully, I think this is our third try to get into it and talk some pop culture.
Man, what's up, Eric and Phil? I appreciate y'all having me on, man. My bad on my end, technical difficulties, yeah, first time on Riverside, but, hopefully not the last, and hopefully I get it right next time.
Yeah, I think you said it best, the Real For Real, bringing the real problems to us. But I think what's going to happen is we're going to have a real discussion about a lot of great stuff here on this episode. If you've been a fan of the show so far, you pretty much know how the show works. We're going to talk a little bit about the Real For Real podcast and Kevin as a content creator. We're also going to dive into a lot of pop culture discussion here. And then I've got 2 games for us to play at the end to liven it up and end it with a little bit of fun. But Phil, for those that are listening to the podcast for the first time, maybe some friends of the Real For Real are checking us out to hear Kevin, why don't you let everybody know where they could find some of our stuff before we get started, and what we're going to be doing as far as our first question, if you want to jump into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you that are checking out the podcast for the first time, or if you're a longtime listener, we want to welcome you in. And thank you so much for all the support through the March episodes, which have been an absolute blast. April is not going to slow down whatsoever. So if you want to keep up to date with everything, make sure you hit the Linktree link in the show notes of this episode. You'll not only find our links, but also Kevin's as well. So everything is nice and compact right there in the show notes of the episode. So with that being said, Eric, I'm just ready to dive right in. Again, excited to ask Kevin some questions about, some films and also play, getting to play interviewer as we always do, and maybe also get his opinion on some of our poor takes that we've blessed the internet with over the last few months.
I love some hot takes, though. I love that.
That's right. I'm hoping we're going to get all the drama put on Kevin instead of us. Because if you don't know, Phil is usually the one, for not being the TikTok guy, he's the one that incites the most rage with his takes, specifically around Studio Ghibli, which is why I wore the shirt in honor, a little spirited away. So, Kevin, let's talk a little bit about you and your co-host over at the Real For Real podcast. Obviously, we are very passionate about podcasting. We have a podcast. We've been running it for a little over 5 years now. I think going on 6 now, Phil. I keep losing count. Can you tell us a little bit about what got you into podcasting and specifically your journey so far with the Real For Real?
Yeah, man. So we started off on YouTube first. It was my boy Isaiah and I. We started October of 2021. And, we just love movies, man. We've known each other since the 6th grade. And, my boy Trevor too, who is now with us, he joined October 2021. All three of us, I'm like, we always talking movies, like, why don't we explore this whole podcast thing and just express ourselves and have an outlet so people can hear us? Because I'm like, I feel like we have interesting conversations all the time. So they're like, all right, that's cool. Now, Trevor, at first, he was like, nah, I don't think I want to do that. I don't want people to openly hear my hot takes or my opinions. I'm like, nah, man, it's all good. So we ended up getting on YouTube. We did that for a while. And then eventually just decided with our format to go ahead and just keep it audio, put a couple things on YouTube, but nothing big. So it's been cool, man. I've just always loved movies growing up. I'm a physical media collector as well. Love buying 4K Blu-ray, geeking out looking at the the audio and visual compared to the Blu-ray to the 4K and doing all that kind of stuff. So yeah, man, it's just movies has just always been a passion of mine. So and now here we are, and now I'm on TikTok. So just bullshitting on there.
No, don't worry. We're definitely going to talk about TikTok because, again, that's definitely something you and me share in common as far as content creation, figuring it out, and I'd love to hear your perspective on it. I also love your content, not just on TikTok, but getting to listen to a couple of your episodes. Definitely a lot of fun and a great conversation over at The Real For Real. Phil, I introduced you to some of Kevin's content. Why don't you talk a little bit about your first impressions, and then if you want to jump into any questions, I'll throw it over to you.
I think one thing that's just so impressive about your content, Kevin, is like Eric and I feel like, there are moments when it's like, I feel like my library is expanding. Like, man, I watch a lot of films, and then you talk about movies that like I've never heard of that are like revolutionary or just life-changing. I'm like, I don't know anything about film, I guess. And that's also that's always just really impressive. So I guess my question is, how do you kind of balance your watch list, because not only are we watching, Eric and I are watching films and trying to keep up with stuff, but we're also watching TV shows, we're watching anime, we're playing video games on the side, obviously we have families and all that stuff. How do you balance such a massive library of films? I mean, you said obviously, we've all been watching film for a long time, but it seems to have kind of really prioritized with you. How do you kind of balance just a huge library and content when it comes to films?
Yeah, so I'm one of those people, man, where I like to watch, in the evening, I like to watch a movie, right? If I'm not watching basketball or football, then I'm going to be watching something, shortly before I go to bed. And I hope not to fall asleep on the movie, right? So, but it's, it gets tougher, man, having a wife, having a daughter, a little toddler running around. But, man, with me, I'm always trying to find something new now to watch. I used to get in this whole thing of just watching what I owned and kind of rewatching stuff and, watching these, 90s action movies that I love. And I'm like, what, I gotta, kind of expand the palette a little bit. So for me, I like going down the IMDb top 250 or, Letterboxd 150 and just kind of going through that and knocking those out, man. And kind of Letterboxd has helped me out quite a bit as well. As far as, seeing what others have seen. And, I think I love movies, man. And then I get on TikTok and I hear some obscure titles. I'm like, goodness, what is this, So, yeah, I'm just constantly always trying to just watch something different, man. So, it's kind of crazy. I feel like I've been doing like a movie a day almost, I know some people do 2-3 a day, and I don't have time for that. So I just try to do one a day. I know you mentioned TV shows. I love shows, right? But I don't always get to them quick. I'm one of those people where I'm kind of a late bloomer with shows. Like Game of Thrones took me 2 years later, right? So The Wire, I caught on to that late. I mean, just a bunch of stuff. Sons of Anarchy, all that kind of stuff I caught on to a little bit later. There's a show right now called Shogun that I want to check out, which I should have checked that out immediately, but I'm I'm a little slow on that. So I just try to just keep ahead with the movies, man, and just stay on top of like what's releasing, and also try to watch these classics as well. So diversify.
Yeah, Shogun is excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, just started Shogun
That's what I
myself.
hear.
It is so good. I've watched the first 2 episodes, and it's great. With kind of a resurgence a little bit when it comes to those stories like from the East as far as like live action goes. I think that's been really, really great. So, and also in gaming as well as in movies has been really fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, you mentioned Letterboxd. Like Eric and I had always kind of like circled Letterboxd a little bit, but we really got into it in 2023. So yeah, like you said, that's a great resource. I mean, even if for those of you listening, even if like you're not going to make lists or leave ratings or anything like that, it's a great resource to find, like Kevin mentioned, finding those films that like you've never heard of. So I'm glad you mentioned that because yeah, Letterboxd has been really helpful for us, Eric.
Yeah, it has, and I think it's definitely changed our like just view on films in general. Just something as simple as going down to a 5-star rating system. We were doing like out of 10s, I think, for the longest time. But I don't know. I've gotten really comfortable with doing that. Kevin, I'm curious. Obviously, seeing so many films, it's going to be hard to maybe answer this question. But what is your ideal section or subsection of film? Like, what specifically gets you excited in the morning to get up or in the evening to stay up and watch a movie? Like, what's that genre or medium for you that you can kind of pinpoint? And if you can't, pick one, give us a couple out there that are in your top tier.
Yeah, so for me, I would say I really like crime dramas. I really, really like crime dramas, man. And so anything that kind of falls into, Goodfellas, that's kind of whatever, but anything that kind of deals with that mob stuff going on, or just anything like A24's A Most Violent Year, but also dramas as well. I love dramas, man. Dramas, I eat that shit up. Obviously, I'm a fan of action, but I would definitely say dramas, 100%. I love dramas. I feel like you get all the best emotions, you get some of the best acting, you get some of the best performances that you'll see all year. So I love dramas.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think that's great. It's always, again, a hard question to answer because you have such a diversity of films that you watch. But I definitely am curious how you feel going through making content, especially on a platform like TikTok, assuming we're going to have it, for a while. Fingers crossed. I don't know. We'll find out together. But I'm definitely curious, what's your process from podcasting to TikTok? And I'll give you an example. For me, we're still kind of getting our feet wet on what we want to do. For us, we have a lot of like existing content I'm trying to make work on TikTok. So then I find myself struggling to get in front of the camera. But Kevin, you're on the camera every single day. We were going to record the first time. You had a family member get sick and you were like, I'm going to find 2 seconds to step away and go record this real quick. Yeah. I envy you for that because I really want to get to that point. So I'm really curious, just from TikTok short form content perspective, how do you get through that where you're just like, I'm going to record this, throw it out there and put it on the internet? Like, what goes through that in your process day to day?
Yeah, so, man, I really just need an outlet to talk about movies, right? Like, I have friends, and my friends like movies, right? But they're not going to talk about movies all the time. They're just not going to. And then things that I watch, they're not going to have seen. So I'm like, I got to get this out here. If it's something that I watched yesterday and I really liked it, I want to say something about it. Boom, you're going to get a short snippet, whatever. And I think TikTok does a great job of giving us this short form, and boom, we could just shoot it out there and get it done, right? And so I think that really helps. And sometimes it's tough because, I'm kind of long-winded too. If you listen to our episodes, you'll be able to see, like, we talk a lot. We can get a little long-winded. So being able to take all this stuff that we have in our head and just get it out there in a short form, 2 minutes, bam, get it out there, we're done. So I love it, man. I love doing it.
I'm hoping you can get my co-host to all of a sudden love TikTok, because again, he is just
I was gonna say, I
refusing
always see Eric
to do
on
it.
there. I don't ever see Phil, you know. But that's the same.
Listen,
we,
man.
we are very similar though, because it's just me. Like, there's people like I've had people say, I'm like, my name is the real. It's the Real for Real podcast. Oh, I didn't know you was a podcast. Somebody told me that before. I didn't know you was a podcast. I said, that's the name. Oh, so you just saw Real for Real. You didn't see the podcast part. Okay, that's real. Well, yeah, it's three of us. It's three of us. So, but somebody's got to be on there doing stuff, man. And, with me, it's interesting because most podcasts, movie podcasts, the formula is kind of just to put snippets of your podcast episode to promote yourself, right? And I think that's a good thing. But I think with TikTok to succeed, or not even really succeed, but just to grab people's attention and kind of build that fan base, I felt like for me, I have to just start just talking, man, and not necessarily episode related, but just find a way to try to grab an audience and just talk about movie news, actors, movie reviews, and just do it and just hopefully have them gravitate to the podcast by being a fan of what I'm doing there, So that's kind of what I've been trying to do this whole time.
Yeah, and podcasting is also in like a totally different space than it was 3 years ago. Like obviously a few, 3-4 years ago, we were all inside. People were discovering these shows that they had, obviously never listened to. They were flocking to that type of content. And then now, that things are regulating and getting a little bit back to normal. We're back to a little bit more shorter form content, with people having less free time and also smaller attention span. So like, yeah. I just have not I was really into Vine. Like I got really, really into Vine, and obviously that's really short content, right? R.I.P. Shout out to Vine. And then now I just have not been able to fully grasp TikTok. Like I definitely understand its value, and I'm glad that Eric has stepped out into the forefront of this. But for me, obviously, because, well, for one, I am just endlessly attacked on TikTok, again, for some of the things that I say. And you know what? That's good. Listen, like Eric always says, feed the algorithm. Give us the interaction.
I need to hear that, because I just be saying,
we'll get to them.
Y'all send me these videos.
We'll get to them.
It's all the Boy and the Heron. It's all Studio Ghibli,
Boy
dude.
And the
he
Heron,
just got roasted.
What was the other? What's the other? Spirited Away. So, they just weren't for me. And people refuse to understand that maybe somebody. Yeah, people just don't understand.
Let me tell you something. Trevor and Isaiah are diehard anime fans, okay? And the director, Trevor's not a fan of him. Just Miyazaki. For some reason, he's like Miyazaki. He's like, everybody gravitates to his stuff, and I just cannot get. I don't get it. And I was like, I'm like, how do you not like Spirited Away? And look, I'm not a diehard anime fan, but I'm like, how you don't like Spirited Away? Like what? Like what are we talking about? I don't know. To me, all his movies are bangers. I don't know. I like them. The Boy and the Heron was good. That's what I was telling people. I was like, look, man, I know y'all are upset about Across the Spider-Verse, but let me tell you something. Across the Spider-Verse left us on a cliffhanger, and that movie gave us a complete story, and it's Miyazaki. Like, come on.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So and everyone is like, well, some people are like, well, there's a Ghibli film for everybody, and then, but at some point, it's just like, well, how many more of these am I gonna watch just for you guys to get upset with me? Because I enjoy, I'm a much more avid watcher of anime than I used to be. So, and I was excited to go into these. I was like, all right. I've been putting them off for a long time. Let me go into them. And then it just was not for me. And I can acknowledge that Spirited Away, culturally, artistically, obviously outstanding, but it just didn't resonate with me the way that I wanted it to. And, I went in I went in with, I think, understandably really high expectations, because I've never heard that he misses. So I went into it and I was like, it just wasn't for me, and I got destroyed for it. Still to this day, actually, I'm still getting absolutely destroyed for it.
Look,
so
I haven't been an anime fan for very long, but I do know one thing: the anime fans are toxic as hell, just as bad as Star Wars, from what I've seen.
Yeah, it can get pretty bad.
Star Wars fans and anime fans, I'm like, look, I don't want that smoke. Y'all keep that Reddit energy over there, all right? I don't want none of that.
Yeah. So shout out to I do want to acknowledge and shout out to the people that were in the comments or also have come up to me in person and said, hey, it's okay. Like it just wasn't for you, but they are confident that there is something out there for me. And I'm willing to give it a shot, but like not right now. Like I'm going to step away. I feel like, and I'd be interested to see your opinion on this, Kevin, because I think a lot of people are now starting to we're now seeing this ridiculous discourse with everything everywhere all at once, and I think A24 in general. Do you think that like A24 is kind of like the studio and Studio Ghibli are kind of like the same thing where people kind of like are what's the word that I'm looking for here? Like I think that people unnecessarily hate. Yeah, but some people are using it against them. Like, oh, A24 is just like the film bros studio, and like it's not really that good. I'm like, come on now. I may not like the Studio Ghibli films, but I can acknowledge that they're well done, even though if they're not for me.
Yeah, no, man, I love A24. I love what they're doing, and I think that it's really cool that they're really building themselves up into being a bigger budget studio now. Like we're gonna get Civil War. And I think that's cool, man. I think they'll still be able to release their, low-key independent films like they do. I mean, they have some very strange titles, and I like what they do, man. I don't think they're the film, bro. I think that everybody just gravitated to it, It's just so unique. It's so different. I mean, hell, they've got movies like Tusk. Have y'all seen Tusk?
Yeah, Tusk is not great. No, I've seen enough clips to know I don't want to watch Tusk. And that's where that actually kind of brings us to a good conversation point, Kevin, because Phil is on his journey to watch like 50 movies this year. I will never hit that number because I know when I see a film like Tusk, I know I'm not going to enjoy it. I don't need to watch it in order to critique film. I'm curious what your thoughts are. What is your mindset when it comes to watching movies? Let's just take this year. What is your approach to watching movies in 2024? Because again, you're looking at two ends of the spectrum. Phil wants to get to a certain number. I'm only watching films that are like compelling and interesting to me. And if they're not, I'm not going to go watch it for the sake of watching it. So where do you fall on that?
No, so I'm like that too, to be honest with you. I really wanted to try to see every new release I could this year, man. But, January and February are kind of slow months. And I just haven't found anything that just really spoke to me, man. In January, I ended up going to go see Book of Clarence. And I think Book of Clarence is a great film, super slept on. And I was calling out all my black people. I'm like, look, man, y'all want to have films and then you don't support it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's here. We got Lakeith Stanfield. And I think Book of Clarence, I'm sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent with this, but Book of Clarence made a mistake by making it look like it's a mockery of Jesus when it wasn't that kind of film. And black people, you can't play with us like that. We don't play with Jesus like that. So that was bad. And I think that was a film that should have gone straight to Netflix. Like The Harder They Fall, that's the same director. The Bullets, James Samuel, he's the director. So, but yeah, as far as, they've got these silly movies like Imaginary, and people are punishing themselves to go see stuff like that. I'm like, y'all know that's going to be trash. Why, So, like, a lot of that stuff, I'm waiting for it to fall streaming, and I'm going to see it eventually. I'm just not going to just go to the movies to go see that just because I'm checking it off the, Like, I'm not going to do that. But I am eventually going to get to the point of all the ones that are trash right now that were in the theater, I'm going to go ahead and just watch them as the streaming, and do it that way. So...
Well, Eric just wanted to like bring that up because I saw Argyle and Madam Web. So
You would never catch me.
Hold on. So okay, Argyle I want to see. I do want to see Argyle. I did not watch Madam Web based off of everybody ripping it apart, and I was like, okay, no, I can. It'll be there in a month. It'll be streaming in a month or two. Like, let me just wait. Like, I don't have to,
But Madam Web was an experience.
No, but like if you're a Marvel fan and like and you're curious and you know you just see it. I mean you just see it. You know like. There were so many bad reviews from everybody, and everybody saying that, and there are people saying it's not even funny, like so bad it's funny or so bad it's so good. Like nobody said that. Everybody just said like you're gonna waste your time, don't do it. So I was like, okay, I'll just stream it, no problem.
Yeah, and to be fair, we did see it on a Tuesday night, which is the Cinemark $5 movie night. So like I wasn't gonna give it, an XD showing. Yeah. And we did go to see it solely for the fact that we knew it was going to be awful. And again, it was an experience. And there are parts where it's so bad that is funny. It's funny because like some of the line delivery and the dubbing, it's like so strange. It really truly has to be seen to be believed. Like and Argyle really came down to me trusting Matthew Vaughn. I just like Matthew Vaughn. I like the Kingsman series, and I thought maybe it could be good. And I think in theory, the premise of the film works, but the execution was incredibly fumbled. So it's definitely if you like that style, I think it's worth a watch. But there's just some at certain points, I never felt like Kingsman got too over the top. But Argyle is completely over the top almost from beginning to the end, and that's where it really like messed up. So, but I do echo what you said on Book of Clarence. Really, really good film.
Yeah, okay, I'm glad y'all like that one. That's what's up. I mean, Argyle looks like fun. I mean, Bryce Dallas Howard, Dua Lipa, Henry Cavill. Like, I mean, it's Sam Rockwell. I mean, it's got a stacked cast. I'm sure I'll have fun with it. I'm just gonna probably stream it. I've missed it, so. But yeah, I mean, I am trying to watch as many of them as I can, and a lot of it's going to fall under streaming until we start getting the Deadpools and the big heavy hitters, the ones that are really going to do
Joker.
So
yeah.
No, I think that's awesome. I think that's a good way to approach it. Obviously, I'm biased. Again, I knew those two movies, Madam Web, Argyle. I don't care what hype around them was. If
not gonna watch
so bad,
Lift.
it's good. No, I'm not gonna watch Lift, and that's on streaming. So I have like a limit. Certain movies when they go to streaming.
Yeah, it's awful.
Maybe I'll check out a streaming movie, but some of them on streaming, like Lift, I'm never gonna watch it. And that's just the way it is.
I need a break. It's too much.
We all need a break.
It's
I just don't understand who told Kevin Hart he could be an action star. You're really good at what you do. Like, he's very good. I watched the movie with him and Bryan Cranston last year. That was it was a remake, and I thought he was very good in that, like in a dramatic role. Yeah. So like, why are you trying to be this action hero, man? It was bad.
I don't know, and I really liked the series that he did with Wesley Snipes. I thought that was good too. I think it was called True Story. That was really good. So. I don't know, man.
He took those dramatic performances and said, you know what I want to do? I'm going to go be in the Borderlands movie for some reason. Like, that's and do Lift.
Which I am going to see. So
I know you are. I know you're a pawn. Like, you just swear.
Hey, Phil, I'm going to see it when it's streaming.
That's fair. That's okay. Wouldn't blame you.
The right approach. But yeah. But Kevin, as we kind of wrap up the conversation on the kind of content creation and the podcast, and we're going to also jump into some games here in just a little bit, just to kind of encompass everything, like, what are some of your goals as you come into the next year as a content creator? Obviously, there's always more that can be done. We have not stopped trying to grow pretty much each and every year. This first started out as a hobby for us, and then once we really took it seriously, a lot of things have improved. So we really appreciate your kind words about our content, because that goes miles with us. So just with yours, it's already so great what you're doing. What are you looking to do in the next year, whether it's on a platform like TikTok, on the podcast, Instagram, whatever? What's kind of those goals that you have for the upcoming year?
So some goals I have now. So luckily last year I was able to join the African American Film Critic Association. So with that, I was able to get a lot of like screeners and promotional materials and things like that. It was kind of like a 4-year consideration type thing. Which actually did help me with watching movies last year that I did not think I was going to get to, like Zone of Interest and things like that, a little bit earlier. So seeing that the possibility is there to be able to do these kind of things. I want to really make it a goal to attend, film festivals and, get in more direct contact with PR at studios and just shed more light on our podcast, and also from TikTok be able to convert more of the followers that we have to our podcast to grow that even more, man, and hopefully also get a little bit more consistent with the podcast I'm recording, because we do every 2 weeks. We had a little bit of a break starting out the beginning of the year, but we've been doing every 2 weeks, but probably get a little bit more consistent with that as well. How often do you guys record, if you don't mind me asking?
Phil, you wanna break the news?
Well, that changed recently. So when we, up until September of last year, we did 2 episodes a week for like 3 years. Yeah, and we finally had to have a moment where like, all right, we need to cut back. So now we are down to just 1 a week, which has been going very, very well. But yeah, 2 a week. I don't know how we did that for so long. There were a lot of miniseries, and we did a lot of movie reviews, and eventually, we just had to analyze what's working, what's not. It didn't really benefit us to do a movie review for a film in which, like say a Marvel movie would come out obviously on a Thursday or a Friday, and then our review comes out on Monday. But people want to know in the moment, like what our thoughts are of that film. So what? Yeah. Let's move that to TikTok. We'll do that on TikTok right out of the theater. We do that right out of the movie theater. We usually share our thoughts. So we had to pick and choose what was working and what was worth our time. And also just for the sake of our sanity, like rolling back on editing and all that kind of stuff and promotion. So yeah, up until recently, it was somehow 2. Now it's just once a week, which is
and what a great
better.
change. What a great change that was, because, again, people looked at us like we were crazy. No, every time we bring it up, they're like Mondays and Wednesdays every week.
I also run a Jaguars podcast, too. So I was editing sometimes 3 episodes a week. So, yeah.
Jeez. Ooh,
yeah. But you're not allowed to listen to that. We don't need any insider information going to Houston.
Sure, with this Houston Texans t-shirt, we're supposed to be friends. It came out. No, yeah. So I was doing that, and then at one point in time in 2022, I had a 3rd podcast I was doing. So I don't know how I did it, and I didn't do it for very long, since that one's not longer is on a kind of a hiatus. So yeah, it was Yeah.
But I asked him to make a couple TikToks, and he's like, nah, not feeling it. I don't get it. I don't understand. Make it make sense. The math ain't mathin'.
Hey, Phil, you know what's funny, dude? I did not want to get on TikTok at first. One of my buddies, his name is Ted the Toy Collector on TikTok. He's a Funko collector. I see you're a Funko collector as well. He's big into that, big time on TikTok, right? He was telling me, he's like, dude, y'all like movies, y'all need to get on TikTok. I'm like, you talking about the app where everybody be dancing and doing all that silly stuff for like 30 seconds? I'm like, I ain't doing that. He's like, no, they got like a whole community. Like, there's a film community. I'm like, whatever, I'll check it out. And then, yeah, that's kind of how that worked. I didn't know.
Maybe I need to find like my one topic I can discuss and then just like stick to that. So maybe that'll be
a series. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so excited that you brought up Ted, because I've been a big fan of him before I got introduced to your content. Ted the Toy Collector is one of my favorite content creators. I love his content, and
he pops up on my Instagram algorithm all the time.
So funny. He's great. Yeah. I love everything. I was definitely introduced on that Star Wars run he was doing, where he watched Star Wars for the first time, and then just been a fan ever since. So I definitely get that. And that's why I ended up joining. Honestly, I joined probably a year too late. I had been like sitting on it for a whole year. And even now I'm still kind of feeling like I've just gotten my feet wet. So the sky is the limit. I think it's going to be great. Finding a way to get all this on TikTok and then also add more, like it's going to be a wild ride. But, Kevin, is there anything else that our audience should know about anything that you've got going on in the next couple months or any upcoming episodes? We'd love to have you kind of plug that for the podcast and for your channels before we kind of jump into the next portion of our episode, which are a couple pop culture games.
Okay. Well, yeah, upcoming later this week, we'll have an episode on Denis Villeneuve where we're talking about his sci-fi films, so y'all be on the lookout for that. We on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, all that good stuff. Give us a follow on there, also on Instagram and TikTok. So, yeah, we'll just be planning and doing stuff every 2 weeks, so I'll be posting on Instagram. Instagram's usually where I do like a lot of, hey, this episode's coming out soon and stuff like that. So, are y'all on Instagram pretty heavy or? Yeah.
Oh
okay.
yeah,
Cool.
we're definitely on Instagram, TikTok. Those are probably our two biggest platforms. And obviously, links to the show notes, everybody, for all of that. We're gonna make sure we have everything easily accessible. Before we jump into that game, I think I'd be remiss if we don't talk a little Dune. Just because, you did your review, I put out a review on TikTok. Phil finally saw it for the first time, and I wanted to give a public update because I haven't done it yet on my Dune review. I had time to sleep on it upon a second rewatch, and I'm giving that bad boy a 5 out of 5. I walked out of it not finding a thing I didn't like about it and wanting to watch it another time. So I just feel like that's a 5 out of 5 film. I'm just kind of curious, Kevin, like when you walked into Dune, if you could give our audiences a little bit of a snippet of how you were feeling going into Dune Part 2 and then how you felt coming out.
Going into it, I said this shit better be better than number one, because number one was damn near a snooze fest. But no, what happened was for Part 1, the first time I watched it was unfortunate. I watched it on Max, which was called HBO Max at the time. I didn't go to the theater to see it or anything. I just wasn't, I ended up watching it there. And I said, damn, that was a big mistake. I really messed up. Like, look how beautiful this is. And also, me being a Denis Villeneuve fan, I don't even know why I did that to myself. I'm like, I don't know anything about Dune. Oh, well, I messed up. So the first time I watched it, I was like, it's okay. Whatever, trying to learn the characters and all that kind of stuff. So I watched it again leading up to Part 2 the week of, and I was like, dang, okay, this is much better. Like, I have a better grasp of the world, the characters. All right, I'm ready for Part 2. I watched Part 2, I was like, damn, that made Part 1 a little bit better, So I give it 4.5 out of 5. There's some things I had little problems with, but nothing, I couldn't give it the full 5. 4.5, I was good, So there were some things as far as the fight choreography and things like that. I was kind of like, but that's okay. So it's solid.
I think if I remember your review, I think that you had some issues with the last fight, right? Between Freya and Paul.
The last fight. Also, Dave Bautista's character, the way he just got killed so quick by Josh Brolin, I was like, like that beef has been building up for a while. Like, you just gonna do it like that? Also, Drew B's movies, he responded to that. He said, I agree with you. He's a big Dune fan as well. He responded and he said he agrees with me, and he thinks that the point of killing Dave Bautista's character that fast was to show how strong Josh Brolin's character is and how weak of a fighter Dave Bautista is, basically. Sorry, I'm not calling him by the characters' names, but whatever. But
that's okay.
But Part 2, that last fight, dude, I was like, come on, man, like, I felt like it could have been better. I get it, though. Everybody, thought it was a, 10 out of 10 fight scene, but I just, that's fine.
Yeah. I think I liked what it stood for more than the actual fight. I thought the fight was really cool. The elements I liked were when they do, and I love this in movies in general, is when they do that very light background to a dark, like, character shading. So, like, you see them fighting, but you don't physically see their features. I love that. Yeah. I eat that up all the time in movies. Skyfall, The Book of Eli are like two movies that come into my mind recently.
Good examples.
Yeah, love that. That's like my favorite thing in fight scenes. I felt like once we moved away from that, it did kind of become anticlimactic. But again, everything that happened in the movie, I totally agree with you. We talked about Austin Butler getting like all this praise for being in like 3 scenes. Phil, that was like one of your first reactions. Was like,
Heath Ledger Joker? Come on now, y'all better stop.
Yeah, and Phil, I think that was one of your reactions coming out of the theater was like, yeah, this movie was really good, but like he was in like 3 scenes.
Yeah, he's like barely in it. And everyone's like losing their shit. And I'm like, okay, and it's a good performance. But I'm like, well, that's it. He's not. He didn't do more. And this is what we were talking about outside of the theater. Is the Joker was an absolute menace, and he was always. We were always keeping up with him and what was going on with on his side of things without Batman. And while we got that a little bit in Dune Part 2, it wasn't enough. Like if and it's already a 3-hour film, so like what are you going to take out to give him more? I'd be interested to see what kind of was left on the cutting room floor for him.
That's what I'm saying. Also, from what I understand, his character is supposed to be extremely intelligent, and that's why he ends up climbing the ranks. And I was like, in the film, you don't even see his intelligence. You see how more of a menace he is. So I was like, they weren't really able to build that up. So, but for Denis is building up a lot of stuff, cramming a lot of things into the story. So, what I saw was amazing, regardless.
Yeah. I think there was talks of that Dune being like a 3-parter, and now they're gonna just do part 3 as Dune Messiah. So it'll be really curious to see where they go. I never thought I would be so obsessed with it. And yeah, I was right there with you. The first one, I will tell you, rewatching the first one after seeing the second one gave me a greater appreciation for the first one. And for Phil, I thought he was not going to keep up with it. But Phil, kudos to you for keeping up with the story, because you kept looking at me like, when is this supposed to confuse me? And that was a different experience than I had in part 1.
Yeah, I was pretty proud of myself. That had always been my thing as far as being a little standoffish towards the franchise, because I knew it just has such in-depth lore and like such a huge fan base. I was like, man, I don't want to go into this and like not understand what's happening. But yeah, I followed it very well, and again, seeing them both in the same day was incredibly beneficial for sure. And I do want to see Dune Part 2 again one more time in theaters, maybe in IMAX if we get the opportunity. One more time before it does leave it, because it's definitely something.
That was a beast, man.
Yeah, we gotta make that happen, Eric.
Yeah, and if we don't, it sounds like we have IMAX plans for when Interstellar re-releases, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, super exciting stuff. But yeah, let's jump into the fun part of our episode. I've got a couple of games, 2 games, in fact, to play, all pop culture based. So, Phil, this is usually your thing on our What Did I Miss series, so you're going to have to forgive me, but I'm going to figure out where I share my screen. I see it. Okay. So let me go ahead here and jump.
While Eric does that, Kevin, I did want to shout out one of your TikToks I saw from a few weeks ago when you were highlighting Black films for Black History Month, and you unlocked a core memory when you brought up The Wood. I saw that in high school, and I haven't seen it since then. So I was like, oh my God, I forgot about this movie. I got to go back and rewatch it now, man. What a great film. Oh, man, I loved that movie when I saw it.
I love it, man. That's, for the younger kids, man, I say what ATL was for y'all, The Wood is for us, man. Like,
that's a great example. Yeah.
Love The Wood. Just pure comedy. Love those flashbacks, man. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a great movie. Eric, that might be a late to the party you need to check out. It's a great film.
Oh yeah, check out The Wood. As you're starting that, Eric, do y'all have top 3 or top 5 films from last year, from 2023?
We do.
Ooh,
we do.
We do.
We're all about the lists now.
We're gonna need yours too, so I hope you have that ready in mind. Is it in the brain? Is it in the dome?
It is.
Give it to us.
It's
okay,
there.
We'll have you go. Go ahead.
My number 1 was Oppenheimer. My second one was Killers of the Flower Moon. Number 3 was The Holdovers. 4 was Past Lives. 5 was Across the Spider-Verse. I'll just give you my whole 10. 6 was Poor Things. 7 was 1001. 9, Anatomy of a Fall. 10, May, December.
That's a killer list.
Looking like,
Phil, I'll leave mine. I'll leave mine for last because I know there's going to be at least one that I'm going to get roasted on. So I'm just going to.
Oh my God, that's right. I forgot about Eric. Oh my gosh, there is a film in Eric's. Okay. All right. So with the premise of saying that there are some of those on your list that we have not seen yet. So we didn't get to see Killers of the Flower Moon yet. Past Lives, The Holdovers. Those are all on our to-do list.
Yeah, Anatomy of a Fall's on Hulu now, and Poor Things. So I'm going to be watching both of those bad babies soon.
Yep. So I'll take out my number 10 right now, or as it is on Letterboxd, was Waitress the Musical, but I'll take that out because that wasn't necessarily like a film. So I'll put in my number 11, which was Hunger Games: Songbirds and Snakes. Number 9 was Extraction 2. Number 8 was Oppenheimer. Number 7 was Barbie. Number 6 was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Number 5 was They Clone Tyrone. Number 4 was Past Lives. Number 3 was Nimona. Number 2 was Across the Spider-Verse. And number 1 was Godzilla -1.
And you know, I feel foolish for not putting Godzilla -1 there. I just, man, it was so many films, dude. Wait, before Eric says this,
Yeah.
Phil, have you seen all of the Godzilla films or majority of them?
No, I haven't seen like the originals. Like we've seen Shin Godzilla. Obviously, I've seen all the MonsterVerse films, but yeah, I have not seen like the classic Godzillas other than maybe Shin. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, out of all the ones you've seen, this is the best one, clearly, right?
Oh, it's my favorite by far. Yeah, I listen. I watched the MonsterVerse Godzillas for different reasons than I saw Godzilla -1. Right?
Yeah.
Those can exist in two different planes. And you know, I got my little Godzilla right here. I got my so those can both exist and be good for different reasons. So
for sure.
But yeah, -1 was incredible. We saw the original, and then we also saw the minus color version in theaters. So it was
I did too. Whew. Amazing.
Fantastic.
All right, Eric.
Here's my thing. I mean, again, there's a couple movies I haven't seen, but it's fine. So number 10 is Barbie. Number 9 is an animated film called Nimona. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is number 8. John Wick Chapter 4 is number 7. Past Lives is number 6. Oppenheimer is number 5. So listen, I understand what's about to happen next. I'm going to stand by it. Elemental, the Pixar film Elemental, is number 4 for me. I love that film. I watched it so many times. It is a unique take. My third movie was not here in 2023, but we watched it earlier this year, and I have updated my rankings. Phil, Hi Nana, the Telugu film that we watched on Netflix, is number 3. Huge recommendation. It is so good. Godzilla -1 is number 2. And Across the Spider-Verse is number 1. So out of all those films, Kevin, only my top 3 had a 4.5. I did not have a 5 last year. Where Phil, I think that was the case for both of us. Neither of us, or did you give Godzilla -1 a 5?
After seeing -1 for the second time, I gave it I upped it to a 5, I think. Oh no, it's a 4.5. It's 4.5. Yeah, no, I didn't give it a 5 last year.
Yeah, I don't think either of us walked away with a 5 last year, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. So both of y'all updated it to a 5, you said, right?
No, I still have it at a 4.5. I just checked.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I got you. The only thing with Godzilla -1 was, old girl was, spoiler if nobody saw it, but old girl left alive like that. I was like,
yeah.
That was part of the reason for the rating. The second time it bothered me just as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I was like, I would have felt more of that emotion if she had just, passed, but that's fine.
Also, come on, she got wiped out, man. We saw what happened.
Yeah,
There's no way.
No way you're surviving that, but I get it. We're getting a sequel, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into... So good. Let's jump into our first game. So I'm going to go ahead here and share my screen. Okay, cool. It lets me pick exactly which tab I want to share. I don't need to share the audio. We are good. All right, cool. All right, guys. So we are going to jump into a game called This or That. So I'm assuming you guys can see it. Yep, it looks like you can. All right. Mm-hmm. So This or That. The rules are pretty simple. Each person has a chance to answer before the actual answer is revealed. So this isn't really a race to the clock game. Both of you guys will get a shot. There are 5 questions total. The points increase by question. And the person with the most points at the end wins. So keep track of your own points, because as Phil will tell you, I'm not really a math guy. All right. Your first This or That is bigger box office. So we have 2 films from one of our favorite directors, Bong Joon-ho. Memories of Murder and Snowpiercer. Which one do you think has the bigger box office? And Kevin, I'll let you go first as our guest in this game.
I'm going to say Snowpiercer.
Okay, Phil?
I also think it's Snowpiercer.
It is, in fact, Snowpiercer, which made $86 million compared to Memories of Murder, only making $1.2 million. One of Bong Joon-ho's lowest grossing films. Yeah.
That's crazy. I wonder how long it was in theaters.
Yeah, absolutely a shocker. In fact, Phil, Okja doubled this box office amount later on. So again, one of his lowest ranking films. I thought that was surprising. I guess Chris Evans really is a draw. So there you go.
Go figure.
All right. We have two films here that had Oscar nominations and won Oscars. I'm just focusing on the nominations. Which Christopher Nolan film had more nominations for the Oscars, Interstellar or The Dark Knight? And Kevin, you go first.
Interstellar.
I'm going to go with The Dark Knight.
You may be shocked to know that The Dark Knight had 8 nominations compared to Interstellar's 5.
Oh,
And The Dark Knight won 2 Oscars compared to Interstellar's 1.
Dang.
All right.
Did. Okay.
We have a lot of director-actor combos in Hollywood. Leo and Scorsese is a big one, but Chris Evans and the Russos, if you think of those Marvel movies, which combo is bigger? Leo and Scorsese or Evans and the Russos? Kevin, you're up first.
Which combo is bigger, like box office wise?
Which one has had the most films together?
Damn it. Leo Scorsese.
Phil?
I'm also going to go with Leo and Scorsese. No, I'm going to go Evans and Russos.
Sometimes the obvious answer is the right one. Of course, it's Leo and Scorsese, but not by a lot. 7 movies, now including Killers of the Flower Moon, and Evans and Russo, 5, 4 Marvel films, and The Gray Man, which, Phil, I think only you have seen.
Yeah. It's not great.
All right. We have a similar question. Similar question here is, who has had the most actor-actress combos between Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore and Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan? Not just romantic films, films in general, Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore, or Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan in films together. And Kevin, you're first.
Geez, I think Sandler and Barrymore.
Yeah, Sandler and Barrymore, because there's that theory that Adam Sandler is secretly in love with Drew Barrymore, so he keeps casting her.
Well, listen, you can absolutely double check this afterwards. I tried to look it up twice. Apparently, Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore have only been in 3 films together. Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks have been in 4.
What is
I
that?
knew it was close,
The Wedding,
man.
the Wedding Singer, 50 First Dates. What's
And
the
a movie
third
called
one?
Blended.
Oh, Blended.
believe
Yeah,
that
that
was-
movie. Yeah, Blended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan in the classic films they're in together. And then there was one that
Yeah.
I think Meg Ryan either directed or produced that I never heard of. So that was news to me. All right. And we're on our last one for this or that.
Uh-oh.
And hopefully you've been keeping track of your scores, because if not, we're just going to give it to Kevin. Kevin, you're first. Which one has the higher?
That's rude.
Which one has the higher letterboxed rating? So
Godfather
out of
Part 2.
Goodfellas, Godfather Part 2. Kevin says Godfather Part 2. Phil?
We're tied. I think it's 2-2. So just for the sake of having a winner, I'll go Goodfellas.
It is The Godfather Part 2 by just a simple decimal point. I like to think that my rating, and maybe Kevin's, it actually impacted this score. So, that's a second call out there, Kevin. How do you feel about Goodfellas?
I love it. It's one of my favorite films of all time. Easily. As cliche as that is, I don't care. I love it. Everything about it.
Yeah, I really
think it's
enjoyed it.
One of the best
Phil,
R-rated movies ever.
yeah, I really enjoyed it. Phil, it's your like top 3. It's in your top 3. I just found it to be crazy. It's really good, but like, where does it rank in like all time for you? Is it up there like Phil, or do you just have a deep appreciation for it?
Oh yeah, I think it's like number 2 or 3 for me.
Hey, Kevin, the same person that showed me The Wood also introduced me to Goodfellas. So I rely I rely on that person. So yeah, it's my number 2 favorite film, very just slightly behind Jurassic Park, because Jurassic Park is like one of my first core memories. Like I saw that in theaters in 1993, and it's like one of the first things I remember from being a kid. I was like 4 or 5.
Oh yeah.
So between those two, honestly, depending on like the day, that can flip flop, but they're both films that I can just put on at any time. So yeah, but Goodfellas
100%.
is I was a little worried Eric wasn't going to enjoy it, but he I mean, at least he enjoyed it. But yeah, he did, because he didn't watch it until last year.
Yeah, it was one of our late to the party. That's one of our series that we do, and it was a great movie. I definitely see why people love it. All timer was crazy to me. But again, I have a lot of hot takes like that. I just had an argument in anime, Cowboy Bebop being an all timer. It was just not my cup of tea. So I think there is something to say about being removed from the film for so long. Except for The Shining, Phil. That movie sucks.
Oh God, I hate The Shining.
I just wanted that in case we clip it. So great. Let me go ahead and jump to our next game, which is called Fact or Bluff. This will be our final game for the episode as we kind of round it out. All right. So you guys should see on the screen, Fact or Bluff. And Phil, again, be very proud of me. I had multiple games for us to play that are new. So I'm testing these out as we go. First one was pretty successful. I think this one will be too. It works a little bit different. It's simpler and also has a couple changes. So for this one, there are going to be 3 rounds, and each round will have 3 questions related to the film topics. I'll show that in a minute. Each player, just like the last one, will have a chance to answer. Is the statement or information on the screen a fact, or is it a bluff? Is it fake? Before the answer is revealed. Don't use Google. You have time to answer, but don't cheat. And then with every correct answer, it's just a point. So the player with the most wins at the end. So it's really easy to keep track of for this one. Our categories: round 1, 3 questions around comedy movies. Round 2, 3 questions around horror movies. And round 3, 3 questions around superhero films. We move into round 1 for comedy. Is it a fact or a bluff that Sausage Party, yes, the movie with Seth Rogen, was the highest grossing R-rated animated film of all time until it was surpassed in 2020 by the anime film Demon Slayer Mugen Train? Kevin, as our guest, you're going to go first. Is this a fact or a bluff?
Fact.
Okay. Phil?
I'm going to go with bluff. I think it was a different animated. R-rated. 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 Mugen Train was rated R? I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always forget, because kids cosplay as it. I always forget that it's like
there's a lot of bad parents out there, I'm aware.
Yeah, we'll R-rated. Yeah, we'll go with fact.
Point for each of you guys. This is a fact. Sausage Party actually took the title from South Park, which was held. That record was held for 17 years before then losing it to Demon Slayer. 4 or 5 years later. I know. All right. Fact or bluff? At one time, Quentin Tarantino listed Friday, Shaun of the Dead, and Team America World Police in his list of 20 favorite movies since 1992. Kevin, is this a fact or a bluff?
Bluff.
All right, Kevin's going bluff. Phil?
I think it's a fact. Isn't there like a scene in Team America World Police with feet? That's probably a fact.
All right, I feel like feel like you had some deep digging in there, deep factual knowledge that you went for, but it's a good thing you went there because it is a fact. This is true. He actually also states that the Japanese film Battle Royale is his top choice. The Matrix would have been number 2 if not for the sequels. And I just thought this was funny. He refers to M. Night Shyamalan as M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong. And I just thought that was funny. So here we are. That's your
Dude, that Quentin
fact of the day.
Tarantino man he's a freak, dude. He's a sicko.
He's crazy, man.
All right. Fact or bluff? Blazing Saddles currently has a 98% tomato meter and an 89% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Kevin, is this a fact or a bluff?
Currently, that's a bluff.
Okay, Phil?
I think it is a fact.
It is in fact a bluff. It is an 89% tomato meter, 91% audience score. All right.
Yeah, ain't no way. People got too many problems with it now.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
All right. We're moving around to, which is horror movies. Kevin, a fun fact, one of the first pieces of content I started running into, I think was back in October. You were watching a bunch of the Friday the 13th movies. So little fun fact there. Fact or bluff, Get Out was released weeks ahead of 2 popular films that year. That is true. Fact or bluff, those movies were Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, and Wonder Woman. Kevin, fact or bluff?
I'm going to say fact because, yeah, those came out in 2017, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Phil?
Yeah, I'm going to also go with fact. I saw Wonder Woman and Jumanji in Dallas when I was living out there, and I believe Get Out came out around the same time.
Yep. They did, but not weeks ahead. In fact, the 2 movies that were there were Logan and Kong Skull Island. Yeah. So Get Out in its second weekend lost to Logan, and then in its third weekend lost to Kong Skull Island.
All 3 really great movies.
Really great. Yeah. All right. Fact or bluff? Anya Taylor-Joy, who starred in Robert Eggers' directorial debut, The Witch, was eager to work with him again and asked if she could play the mermaid that is in The Lighthouse. Kevin, is this a fact or a bluff?
Hold on. Dang. I'm gonna say fact. Yeah.
Okay, Phil?
I'll also go fact. Yeah, because
It is a fact. Eggers replied that there was not a role for her. She shouldn't be this particular mermaid. So that did not happen. She did also try to be a seagull. That did not work either. That is a fact. All right. Fact or bluff? The film Megan was released in 2022 and it received a D cinema score. Kevin, is this a fact or a bluff?
Bluff.
Phil?
yeah, I think people like Megan for some reason. I'll go fact.
It is a bluff. It did release in 2022 and it received a B cinema score. Yeah, people for some reason like that movie. That was one of the ones I was never going to watch. Yeah,
my
I was
daughter
never going to
hated
watch
that movie.
All right, round 3, final round. Hopefully you guys are keeping track. I think you guys are close. Fact or bluff? Marvel films are in each spot of the top 5 single day grosses of all time. Kevin, is this a fact or a bluff?
Fact.
I'm gonna go bluff. I bet you there's something surprising in there, like Fast and the Furious or something.
Fast and the Furious would never, but Star Wars would. It is a bluff.
There we go.
It is 4 out of the 5 spots. The only non-Marvel film is one of my favorite films, Star Wars Episode 7.
Okay, let's also not act like Fast and the Furious doesn't have like $1 billion grossing film, so it's not that outlandish.
That's because you watch it all the time. It's you.
I didn't say it was good. I just said I could see it. A bunch of people flocking to go see it in the first weekend.
And nobody's seeing that in a single day. You gotta give it some time before you go watch Fast and Furious. All right.
I don't think so. Day one for me.
All right. Again, make sure you keep a track of your score because we're going to see if that's going to be important here in a minute. Fact or bluff? Before landing on Ben Affleck, these actors were either considered, held discussions, or even auditioned for the role. Those actors are Ryan Gosling, Josh Brolin, and Jason Momoa. Kevin, is this a fact or a bluff?
I'm going to say, fact?
Okay. Phil?
I'm going to go bluff. I don't remember hearing Brolin's name, but I'm probably wrong.
You are. It is a fact. Gosling was considered for the role. Discussions actually took place with Brolin at one point, and Momoa actually auditioned, which everybody pretty much knows that one, and he eventually became Aquaman. All right.
There we go.
We're at our final question. Where are we? How are we feeling? How many points are we at? Does anybody know? That's the great question.
Phil, have you been keeping track?
I believe I've gotten 4.
Okay, we're gonna say this is gonna win it. So, fact or bluff?
Hey, how many do I have?
Yeah. Fact or bluff? Hancock, starring Will Smith, was reported to have a budget of $125 million. Is this a fact or a bluff? Kevin?
Bluff.
Okay, and Phil?
I will go fact.
Okay. Kevin for the win. It actually was $150 million. So quite expensive. I think this was like back
a little bit higher than that.
2008, I think it came out. Yeah, it was a while ago. But yeah. Great job, guys. Thank you guys for playing both of our games. That worked out really, really well. And yeah, Kevin, you are our winner. So bragging rights, you've got those. But yeah, that worked out really well. All right, guys. Well, we are wrapping up the episode, so it sounds like this is perfect timing. Kevin, we have all of your information for the Real for Real podcast. Anything else you want to shout out before we head and wrap this episode?
Oh, man, I just want to say appreciate y'all having me on, man. I had a good time, enjoyed the games. Y'all organize. We got to get like y'all. Y'all organize, man. I like y'all. Y'all run a smooth operation here. I like that. Yes, sir. Really enjoyed it, man.
Appreciate that.
Well, that's a
Appreciate
huge compliment.
that.
Yeah, thank you so much. It
Good
took
try,
time.
good try.
It took
Yeah.
time. So
Taking a lot of time. But yeah, let's run into the end of this episode. Phil, if you'll close us out, we are at the end of the Creator Spotlight. Make sure to check out the Real for Real podcast. And Phil, if people want to check out more of our content, where can they do that?
yeah, as I mentioned at the top of the episode, everything can be found in the Linktree link in the show notes of this episode. You'll find everything you need for the Wait For It podcast, as well as Real for Real. And if you want to support both shows, you can do a couple of things. Head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leave both podcasts 5-star reviews. It is the lifeblood of podcasting, and it helps us out tremendously. You can also share content. Let us know that you're listening. Let us know that you're watching. Also very appreciative. The main places to follow us, of course, with the Wait For It podcast being Instagram, TikTok, and our growing Discord community. So make sure you check out all of those. But if you find yourself wanting to support the podcast a little bit more and going the extra mile, Eric will let you know how you can do that.
Yeah, so in addition to all those free options, like our Discord community, social media, if you want to go the extra mile and support the podcast, you can go directly to our Buzzsprout page, or you can take those funds and move them over to Patreon, where patrons like Stefan and Breyer are helping to support the show, and in turn, they're getting exclusive benefits like early access and behind the scenes to episodes like this one. But the likes, the comments, the shares, not only for us, but for the Real for Real show, obviously is going to help us out tremendously. Make sure to do that. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. My name is Mr. Eric Almighty. That is my co-host, Phil the Filipino, and our special guest, Kevin from the Real for Real podcast. Please keep in mind on our show, we release episodes every Wednesday with some occasional bonus content on platform like TikTok. And all you have to do is wait for it.
So, I heard you're looking for a go-to source for entertainment.
Wait for it.
Gaming?
Wait for it.
Anime?
Plus Ultra!
Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.